Jab. This is your lead hand, and I would tell you to respect it more than any other punch in boxing. A good jab is not just there to touch your opponent, it is there to take control of the ring before the fight gets chaotic. It lets you measure distance, interrupt rhythm, test reactions, and make the other fighter think before they move. When it is sharp, it feels like a command more than a punch. It goes out quick, lands clean, and comes right back home. The reason it matters so much is that the fighter with the better jab often looks calmer, more organized, and one step ahead. Once your jab starts working, everything else starts opening up behind it. Cross. This is your rear hand straight, and this is where you begin to feel what real punching power is supposed to be. The cross is not just your back arm firing forward. It starts from the floor, moves through your legs, turns through your hips and shoulders, and finishes through the fist in one clean line. That is why a proper cross feels heavy without looking wild. Most of the time it follows the jab because the jab opens the door and the cross drives through it. It matters because this is one of your main power punches, one of your clearest scoring shots, and one of the best examples of how boxing rewards balance and timing over brute force. Lead hook. This is where your offense starts becoming more dangerous from the side instead of only straight ahead. The lead hook comes from the front hand and travels in a short arc, usually toward the head or body. It is not a big swing. It is a tight, sudden turn that punishes people who get too comfortable standing in front of you. Straight punches attack what is directly there, but the lead hook sneaks around the edges of a guard and changes the angle of the exchange. It matters because this is the punch that starts teaching you how to be less predictable. Rear hook. This is the hook from your power side, and it carries more weight because the stronger half of your body is behind it. It shares the same rounded path as the lead hook, but it usually lands with more force if you catch the moment, right? That extra force makes it dangerous, especially in close exchanges or when the other fighter is standing still a little too long. The risk is that it can get sloppy if it becomes too wide, so it has to stay compact and connected to your balance. It matters because it gives you another heavy option beyond the basic straight rear hand, and that makes your attack feel less obvious and much harder to time. Lead uppercut. This is one of your best inside punches when the space gets tight and straight shots are harder to land clean. The lead uppercut rises from the front side and comes up through the middle, often when the opponent is leaning forward, covering high, or forgetting to protect the space underneath. It does not need a lot of room, which is part of what makes it so useful. It feels different from a hook because it lifts instead of swings, and that change in direction can catch someone by surprise. It matters because it can split a tight defense, disrupt pressure, and suddenly make close-range fighting feel dangerous for the other person. Rear uppercut. This is the heavier version from the backhand, and when it lands flush, it can be one of the most dramatic punches. It comes upward with the force of the rear side behind it, which gives it more power than the lead uppercut, but also makes timing even more important. This punch becomes especially useful when the opponent ducks in, crowds you, or stays too comfortable behind a high guard. The rising angle is what makes it so effective. People are often prepared for punches that travel straight or around the side, but the rear uppercut comes right up the middle and lifts through the target. It matters because it can break through a defense that looks solid from the outside. Overhand right. This is a punch that feels clever and violent at the same time. The overhand right is thrown from the rear hand, but instead of traveling straight like a cross, it loops over the top and drops in from above. That shape is what makes it useful against taller opponents, jab-heavy fighters, or anyone hiding behind a high guard. It is not a punch you want to throw lazily, because if the timing is off, it becomes easy to see. But when it is set up correctly, it feels like it appears from outside the normal line of fire. It matters because it is one of the best examples of how a punch can become dangerous not just from power, but from angle and timing. Overhand left. This is the mirror image of the overhand right, and it becomes especially important in certain stance matchups. The overhand left usually shows up when the angle between fighters naturally leaves that lane open, especially when a left-handed stance lines up well against an orthodox guard. Like the overhand right, it comes over the top instead of straight through the center, which makes it awkward to track and hard to block cleanly. That awkwardness is what gives it value. It matters because boxing is never just about what punch you throw. It is about where you are standing, what line is open, and which side gets there first. Shovel hook. This is one of those punches that does not fit neatly into one category, and that is exactly why it is so useful. The shovel hook travels on a diagonal line, somewhere between a hook and an uppercut. It often digs into the body, especially around the ribs or liver area, but it can also rise toward the head, depending on the opening. Because it is not purely sideways or purely upward, it slips into awkward spaces that are hard to protect. It feels compact, sharp, and sneaky when thrown well. It matters because unusual angles create hesitation, and hesitation is one of the best things you can force out of an opponent. Body jab. This is the jab aimed below the head, and it does more work than people give it credit for. Instead of reaching for the face, you send the lead hand into the chest, stomach, or solar plexus to chip away at balance, breathing, and comfort. It may not look dramatic in the moment, but it starts taking something out of the other fighter every time it lands clean. It also gives them something else to think about. And that matters because once they start worrying about the body, the head becomes easier to reach. It matters because good body punching changes the fight little by little, and the body jab is one of the safest, smartest ways to begin that process. Check hook. This is a punch built on timing more than force. The check hook is usually thrown with the lead hand while turning or pivoting away from an opponent who is coming forward too aggressively. What makes it special is that it is not just an attack. It is also a way of making the other fighter run into the shot while you slide off the line. That gives it a very different feel from a regular stationary hook. It is controlled, sharp, and often frustrating for pressure fighters who keep trying to charge in. It matters because it shows that good punching is not always about standing your ground. Sometimes the smartest shot is the one that lands while you are already leaving. Rabbit punch. This is the punch to the back or base of the head, and it stands out because it is illegal. It is still worth knowing because it explains part of boxing's safety rules and why referees react quickly when certain shots land in dangerous areas. The back of the head and neck are far more vulnerable, so blows there are treated very seriously. That is what separates it from the legal punches in boxing. It is recognized, but it is not accepted. It matters because understanding boxing is not just about learning what can be thrown. It is also about understanding where the line is and why that line exists. If you really want to grow your fight IQ to become a better fighter, or just to be good enough to hold your own in a street fight, check out my other videos, subscribe, and leave a like. If not, I'll have to send your family 2 to 3 years Dagestan and forget.